Welcome to our fifth class of our productivity course called Effective Meetings. Hi, my name is Juan Llerena. I'm a marketing consultant and an engagement and motivational speaker. Meetings. When we want to be more productive, then we're facing different challenges every day, even at work, even in our personal lives, even when we're trying to work at home. There are challenges, right? There are distractions and everything else. But today, our focus are going to be the meetings, and we're going to try to, for those meetings that are necessary, to turn them into effective meetings. So the first question to answer here, is it really necessary? Every time you have a meeting, every time somebody asks for a meeting, do you think every meeting is necessary? Can you think of the last 6 months on your business or at work? Has every meeting been necessary? Well, in some cases, you will probably find that the answer is yes. But in some cases, the answer is definitely not. You can probably have a meeting to discuss a strategy to do something, right? Or to tackle a project or to identify a problem. But many of these conversations can be happening offline via email or online in live in real time via conference calls to try to save you from committing just to go to a meeting, right? We have discussed that if we spend 4 hours just to get a meeting done, where we travel for about an hour, where we meet for about an hour and a half, plus we get the lunch, and then we drive back to the office, that we already are spending about a third to half of our day just to have a meeting. And we haven't even started getting anything done at home or anything done at work, right? So I want you to think how awesome and productive is to have a meeting. Well, you know I'm being sarcastic. I don't think it's really awesome and very productive to have a meeting unless you are actually getting things done on your meeting. So I have to tell you, I'm not a big fan of meetings, especially those that are just a complete waste of time, right? So if I go to a meeting that I don't know what the agenda is, I just don't think it's going to be the best meeting, that is going to be the most effective. If I go to a meeting and I don't hear or see clear objectives, if I don't know what the meeting is for, then I know the opportunities for that to be a successful, effective meeting are going to be less and less. You can think of what you can be doing instead of being at a meeting. Think of the opportunity cost and what is that you could be doing if you wouldn't have to be at a meeting. Now, have you ever been at a meeting where you have no idea why you're there, or you're at a meeting and all of a sudden, there's somebody in the meeting where they have no reason to be, they could be doing something else. Again, that is the cost of opportunity. Now, this image might look familiar, right? A bunch of people just sleeping in a meeting where maybe there's no clear direction or it's not even interesting enough. Let's talk for a minute about the opportunity cost. What can you be doing if you wouldn't have to be at that meeting? The first rule of thumb is this: if that person that is at the meeting is not indispensable, then don't invite them. Simple. If that person is not indispensable for that meeting, then that person shouldn't be there. If that person is you, well, maybe you shouldn't be there. There are other ways where you can stay in the loop, where you can be communicated of what's going on. But if you are not completely indispensable, or if somebody in the meeting is not completely indispensable, well, maybe don't have the meeting. Let's instead think of an efficient way to do a meeting, right? Can you carry some of those conversations via email? Can you carry those conversations via video conference? I bet you can. More and more common are these meetings where you have someone that is in Florida and in New York, and I'm right here in Minnesota, and we're having a conference call, we're working on the project, we're following up, 20 minutes, 30 minutes stops, and then we're done. We didn't even have to step off the office. Could you incorporate that into your daily routine? I bet you can. You just have to find out how. Now, who needs to attend the meeting to make those meetings more efficient? And how frequent should those meetings be? Let's start looking at some ideas on how to make a meeting more efficient. Have an agenda. Number one rule, have an agenda. Be specific and be concise. If you don't have an agenda, so that means that you have no idea, no clue what you're having the meeting for. You're not going to step into a meeting to say, hey, what do you guys want to talk about, right? The meeting is for A, B, and C, and that's about it. If something opens up, maybe you want to have an open discussion, maybe you want to have that open discussion for 5 or 10 minute stops. Very clear, very specific. And there is any topics that arise from that need a special attention. Maybe you can schedule another meeting for that at another time, only with the people that needs to be part of that conversation. So be specific and be concise. For God's sake, have an agenda. Who should attend the meeting? If they don't have a say in, if they don't have a decision, maybe they don't need to be invited to the meeting. My recommendation and what I try to do is before I have a meeting, I send out an agenda well in advance, so people have an idea why they're going to be at the meeting, what topics are going to be discussed. If I know, let's say if we are preparing an event and we're planning an event, so I have someone that is taking care of all the social media campaign, someone that is taking care of all the printed materials, someone that is taking care of the contacts and coordinating the event. And if we have someone that is coordinating, let's say, the different stations or the different guests or invitees that will be part of this event, well, I'll invite them all and I'll tell them exactly what they will need to report on. I'm not just going to assume that they will know what we're going to talk about, but if I want to focus for that meeting in a specific part of the event, then that will be part of the agenda, so people know exactly what we're thinking of doing before we go there. So that saves you time, and at the same time, it helps lower the stress levels because people will know what's expected and they will be better prepared. You shouldn't have more than 3 or 4 topics, let's say max 5 topics in the agenda. Don't have any more than that, otherwise your meeting is just going to last forever. When you go past 15-20 minutes, the energy levels drop, people are getting a little more anxious, they're getting tired, and they don't contribute as much to the meeting. So I would say 3-4 topics will be ideal, no more than 5. And you have to have some rules. If it's not on the agenda, don't talk about it. If you are the moderator of the meeting, that's fine, but if you are not, have somebody to step into that role, to be a moderator. So only the things that are in the agenda can be discussed, unless it's something really, really important that it needs to be discussed, but then you need to circumscribe, you will need to keep the conversation only around the topics that have been defined in the first place, or if a new topic arises that it wasn't expected, well, limit that to a specific amount of time, and if more time needs to be needed, then you need to discuss that at a later time, maybe with a smaller group of people. So it's important that you have an agenda. Have an action plan as well. Provide an action plan or a recap. After you have the meeting, you always need to leave with an action plan. If you don't have an action plan, then that meeting was not very effective or very productive. If you're going to have a meeting to discuss another meeting, then that's not very effective. I don't like those kind of meetings. So every time you step out of a meeting that you organize or that you're part of, hopefully there should be an action plan, and share that action plan via email. Short and straight to the point. Who is doing what was said, and what's the next step, who will be reporting to who, when the next meeting will be, and what are those goals, responsibilities, what was agreed to, and the follow-ups. Really simple, straight to the point. Communication, especially in larger teams, is key. Any organization, big or small, if you have your own business, if you work for a corporation or a big company, it doesn't really matter. Communication is key. Communication with your customers, clients, communication with your suppliers, with your vendors, communication with your partners, your business partners, communication with your employees or your co-workers. Everyone that is part of the organization that is going to be affected by, or that will be affecting somebody else's, needs to know. Then you need to share information with them. So you need to learn to communicate effectively with your team. There are many ways, there are many tools. The important part here right now is for you to learn and understand that by recognizing that it's harder to communicate in a larger team, you have to think and ask yourself the following question. Why is it important, and who does it affect? Because you don't want to leave anybody out of the loop, even if they don't attend the meeting. But if it's going to affect the responsibilities or their flow of work or the information they will need to provide in addition to what they've been doing, or maybe they need to forward that to somebody else, or instead of, well, that person, that people, that team will need to know. So you need to make sure that you always include who you're affecting with those decisions that are discussed on the meetings, or if you're modifying any procedures, communication, it will be really important. And believe me, it's not really simple. It's very, very hard. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of practice, and the more you practice it, the better you get at it as well. And the same applies for all your team members. And one of the goals and one of the objectives of having a good communication is to reduce anxiety and misunderstandings. Also avoids last minute surprises. And you also have to be open to have informal meetings or quick gatherings. So let's say you attended a meeting and you work on a development team or in a marketing team or in the product design team. Well, you just attended a meeting for a customer, and we need to share what we have learned in the meeting and to share the agreements that came out of that meeting. Well, you can have a quick informal gathering with your team and just have a casual conversation with your team members to inform everybody where things are at. So again, you reduce anxiety, you reduce and avoid last minute surprises, and that will improve your communication process, which in turn affects your morale and improves everybody else's productivity as well. Now, if we apply all these concepts, we are ready to have more productive meetings, only if we need to have one, of course. And that's the end of this 5th class, productive meetings, which I hope help you conduct better meetings as well. See you at the next class.